Today, I would like to discuss Numbers chapter 12. This is the chapter where Miriam and Aaron speak against their brother Moshe concerning the Cushite, the Cushite woman that he had married. And so, this is my point is there is an adjective that is used in this chapter that is not in the Hebrew text. It's not in the Septuagint. It's not in the Qumran fragments. So I want to address this because I believe that this passage has been erroneously used for racial purposes, and I don't believe that this is the point of this passage per se. I've seen arguments for both, but I want to give my take on it. So, to begin, in chapter 12, verse 1, judging by the word that's used, it's feminine, so I'm going to imply that Miriam was the one that popped off these complaints against Moses because the beginning of verse 1 says Vateta ber Miriam va'aharon be Moshe. It says Miriam and Aaron began to talk. So given that Vateta ber is feminine, even though Aaron is there, I believe it implies that Miriam was probably the driving force behind this discussion. And so God comes down, he hears it, and much like a father, he summons them and he chastises them. He comes down in a pillar of cloud. But when the cloud goes up, and verse 10 says, when the cloud lifted from above the tent of meeting, that is the Ohel Meod, Miriam's skin was leprous. It became as white as snow. Aaron turned toward her and saw that she had a defiling skin disease. So this is what I really want to address. The adjective white is not in the Hebrew text. The Hebrew text reads Ve'ha'anan sar me'al ha'ohel ve'hine Miriam mitzara'at kasheleg ve'ifen Aharon el Miriam vehine matzara'at. So I don't know if you noticed, but sara'at was used twice in this particular passage. In addition to it being translated as leprous, it can also refer to various other skin diseases. So notice when it says Aaron turned toward her and saw that she had a defiling skin disease, you see sara'at there used again. So we're going to deal with kasheleg. So I believe a better translation would be that her skin became like snow, not as white as snow. Now there are scriptures that have this particular uh, you know word white in there as to refer to not only I guess, well, basically to refer to the color of snow. Isaiah chapter 1 verse 18 has it. Psalm 51 has it. But this particular passage, as white as snow, is just not in there. And so I believe the overall point and the fear that Aaron has in this passage is the fact that her skin probably became like snow in the sense of maybe it became flaky. And another reason why that I don't believe that this was like a color issue per se, because my point in even mentioning this is sometimes there are scholars, both black and non-black, who have read experiences in history that they are familiar with. They kind of read that back into the text when that may not even be what's going on. Because I believe that certain people even use this verse to imply that God doesn't like white skin, so therefore his judgment upon Miriam was white skin, and I just do not believe that's what's happening here. I believe what's happening is her skin became flaky and it looked like a stillborn baby per se. I don't believe this was necessarily like, oh, well, now she looks like a white person, because notice what Aaron prays in verse 12: do not let her be like a stillborn infant coming from its mother's womb with its flesh half eaten away. So obviously there was something very frightening that Aaron saw. I don't believe it, she just turned another skin complexion, but I believe it was the appearance and, if it makes sense, the texture of the skin that frightened him. There are other passages in the Hebrew scriptures that deal with sara'at, that deal with what we often translate as leprosy, that had nothing to do with racial tension, such as 2 Samuel, where Joab is basically, it is declared, may his family never be lacking someone that had leprosy. And that wasn't because of something that he said, it was something because that he did. He had murdered Avner, or Abner. We also see it with Gehazi or Gehazi, who dealt deceitfully with his teacher Elisha, and therefore when he turns away from the prophet, he becomes as leprous. Um, and that actual passage says as white as snow, but I checked and the word white is not there as well. So again, a better translation would be like snow, not so much as white as snow, but like snow. And so I do not believe that, in this particular chapter, God is declaring that he doesn't like white skin, so therefore he gave it to Miriam. I don't believe that's the context of this. I believe the context of this was basically the skin of Miriam became like snow, like the texture, like flaky, and maybe even dissolving in a sense. Because again, remember Aaron in verse 12 says, um, "Do not let her be like a stillborn infant coming from its mother's womb with its flesh half eaten away." So these are just my thoughts, and I'm curious as to what you think.